Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What's up, you Tennessee Homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, I apologize already. I probably should have called you the Alabama Homer on this one, Shane, because we buried Papaw and the Crimson Tide on the last episode. No more smack talk. We're talking the greatest coach of all time, the greatest dynasty of all time, and it's time for Alabama to rebound and get back to the college football playoff. How you doing, buddy?
Mike, let me just get one more. I'm not quite ready. I'm not. All right, I'm ready. Let's go. Roll Tide, baby. Roll Tide. Let's go.
Yeah, we were joking. Obviously, we'll get to it, but not a lot of losses, toss-ups, anything. I mean, Alabama fans expect greatness, and as long as Nick Saban's on the sideline down there, Shane, they should. So, I mean, this may not be as long. We're stretching out as much as we can, but not a lot of questions.
Yeah.
With this dynasty, you know what?
And I think sometimes that gets overlooked, man, because they've been there so long. I'm doing these highlight reels, these big orange walks, and it seems like, if I could put one out there where Ole Miss upset Alabama, or I put one out there at Tennessee upset Alabama, they go viral because people just don't get to see too many Alabama losses. In fact, it makes it to highlight reels. It's something that you send out on flyers when you're trying to get your kid to come to the campus. You know what I'm saying? So this one, Alabama has always been, at least the last 10, 15 years, Mike, has always been the top dog, the one you want to knock off, and the one that you constantly compare programs to, Mike. I mean, we're looking at the Georgia Bulldogs coming off a second national championship, and we're constantly comparing it to some of the great teams that Nick Saban has coached, which I think they got a pretty special team this year, Mike.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And I apologize, I should know the user's name, but I did troll him a little this weekend, but he said it best, Shane. It's on my timeline. If you beat Alabama, fans remember it for decades. If Alabama beats you, it's just a Saturday, because that's what it's been under Nick Saban, and it's true, and it's going to be true again.
It's true, man.
This fall. So let's do a quick recap. Last season, Shane, 11-2. It's just wild that 11-2, doom and gloom, awful season when 99.9% of college programs would take that in a heartbeat, but a couple last-second losses on the road at Tennessee and LSU. That's what held you back from the SEC championship and the college football playoff, but huge bowl win. And I think it says something to the program, Shane, and just the respect for Nick Saban and everything he's built when you're going into what many call these meaningless bowl games. They're not meaningless. I really don't. I hate when people talk like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't meaningless, Shane, to Bryce Young, Will Anderson, and the group down there in Tuscaloosa, because they all suited up to whoop the hell out of Kansas State. I love to see that, and maybe that a little bit more momentum going into the offseason for the younger players on the team to get locked in for another revenge season there in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And looking at last season, you lost 2 games by, 3 points combined or something crazy like that, and couldn't get into a college football. Yes, was it a beautiful season? No. But it kind of is a mockery to what we've said, what we grew up. It's like, and the thing that drives me nuts, it's like, yes, they didn't win all their games by 30 points like usual, but they still won a lot of games, Mike. They won 10 football games. And when you and I are both sitting out there at the college football playoffs, myself included, even though I got 10-win Tennessee wanting to get into the college football playoffs, everybody knew who should have been in there. And I know Nick Saban got made fun of, and, he was kind of made of a mockery, just trying to, say exactly what I'm telling you right now. But damn well they would have kicked the shit out of TCU. That Ohio State and Alabama could have been a hell of a game, that could have went Alabama's way. Not saying that it would have, but wouldn't you have loved to have seen Georgia and Alabama in a national championship? You know what I'm saying? Like, even though you could throw out the scores and all the close wins and close losses, when it came to those two, it would have been a lot better to watch on TV. So, yeah, I think last year was a disappointment, but it was also a disappointment that these 10-loss or 10-win teams from the SEC didn't get the respect they deserve.
Right, and moving aside from the talking point, Shane, I think the best way, and they'll never do it like this, but the best way to get exactly what you're hitting at, ask Kirby Smart, who had the number one team, number one seed, who is the team you least want to face? And 1,000 out of 1,000, Shane, he would have said, I do not want to face Nick Saban and Alabama. So maybe that's the greatest metric of them all, of exactly what you're talking about. But let's stick with Nick Saban, the coaching staff here, Shane. Of course, the greatest college coach of all time. I don't even think that's debatable anymore after 16 seasons at Alabama, and they've just been a dynasty virtually from the second season on. But let me ask you this, Shane, because he is so driven to be excellent, and the standard is championship or bust down there, and we all around the SEC were waiting for kind of the demise of Nick Saban so that the rest of us can contemplate what it's like to win a championship. Of course, now Kirby's taking that from the rest of the SEC, but I guess what I'm really trying to say, Shane, however many years Nick Saban has, and could be 5 years, could be 10 years, I don't know, but in the back of his mind, Shane, he has got to see that the end is approaching, and he was already maniacal about winning these championships. I have to believe if he's in his head saying, well, I got 5, 6, 7 more years, he is taking every single day, every single second, maximizing those years, because he wants to go out winning 5 titles, 6 titles, 7 titles, and just destroying every single record. And I have to imagine, Shane, that Georgia building up and becoming a juggernaut of their own is just going to drive Nick Saban even harder to reclaim his status as the greatest coach and the greatest program in college football.
Absolutely, man. I think you said it perfect, brother. This is a personal game to Nick Saban, and you think about it, Mike. 5, 6 years ago when we started the show, I think our first show topic was Nick Saban's retiring this year. That was a couple of natties ago. So it's so funny because you keep saying, yeah, the end is coming, but the guy looks great. I mean, he is dialed in, brother. And I know there's a little slippage, and Mike's been on Paul Feinbaum telling everybody about it, but still, he manages to stay on top of his game by surrounding himself with other coaches to assist him. And I think that's kind of what failed him last year, but I think he's bounced back this season.
Shane, he's twice our age. He's 10 times in shape compared to us. You know what I mean?
Dude, I was watching a video. He was out there doing the stretches with the guys, and I was like, damn, I can't even do those stretches, I'm 40 years old, and he's down there wallering with the boys, I'm like, damn, I'd never get off the ground.
Well, we did have some massive overhaul, Shane, of the coaching staff, of course. Both coordinators turned over. Bill O'Brien back to the NFL, Pete Golding off to Ole Miss. So we brought in Tommy Rees to be offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach at Alabama. Yeah. He was the offensive coordinator the last 3 years at Notre Dame, and he was at Notre Dame for 6 seasons coaching up the quarterback. So, great hire to coach up quarterbacks. That is, we'll get to the biggest question marks, but that's front and center for this team if they want to win another national championship. Here's a couple stats for you, Shane. The last 3 Notre Dame seasons, points per game averaged by the offense under Tommy Rees. In 2020, his first year, 33.4 points per game. 2021, 35.2 points per game. And then last season, 31.8. So consistent, not elite, but I think you could certainly sit here and say, well, Notre Dame, I mean, we mock them to no end. They do not have the players. We see it every time they play SEC. They get destroyed because they don't have the players that they've got at Alabama, Now he's going to have better weapons. And hell, his hand-picked quarterback, Shane, as soon as he got down to Alabama, he said, hey, picked up the phone, why don't you come on down here and play with some real athletes, see what you can do. Also, under Tommy Rees, Shane, they had a quarterback at Notre Dame, Ian Book. He left Notre Dame the winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history, number 2 in completions, passing yards, passing touchdowns, and completion percentage. So this guy clearly knows how to coach up quarterbacks, and that's going to be paramount for Alabama this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what you brought him there for. This is the room that's gotten a lot of question marks as it is, and I'm excited, man. I just nothing against Bill O'Brien or anything like that, but I don't know, man. That guy always seems like he was at the right place at the right time, you know. Penn State job, you know, got him down to the NFL, and I never liked Houston, man. Nothing against Houston, but it's just they never could get it going. They were always good, but not great, you know. And then you bring them to Alabama, so there's my Bill O'Brien take right there. Obviously, he's never coming on the show, but I'll say this, brother: this Reese hire, I think it's a great hire because you want somebody that is quarterback minded. You got a room full of them. You just got to identify one of them and make him a better player. You don't need a game changer. Seriously, there's a ton of talent on this roster. You just need kind of a what do you call it? A game manager, if you will. So identify that, and I think that's what we brought Tommy in for.
Right. And on the defensive side of the ball, Shane, bringing back Kevin Steele, one of the most experienced assistants in all of college football. This is his 3rd time as Nick Saban's defensive coordinator at Alabama, so clearly that fit goes back a long ways. They know what they're getting in one another. He was defensive coordinator at Miami last year, 13 seasons as an SEC assistant coach. Shane, he was at Auburn under Gus Malzahn, and honestly, Shane, he kept Gus Malzahn employed for the last couple of years because those defenses were great, offenses were not. He had 4 top 20 scoring defenses in the country at Auburn. Kevin Steele, he's up there in age as well, but I mean, one of the best handful of defensive coordinators in the SEC, in my opinion.
Dude, I think it's a great hire, man. I people were trying to steal him for years down there at Auburn, and the reason is like you said, the output those defensive have had. Yeah. You know, that's why he was such a sexy hire. So, yeah, I just kind of surprised that he went to Alabama. You know, all those years hating on him, but you know, Papa calls, you know, you go home, I guess. go to rehab, you know what I'm saying? Launch. And that's the beauty of what Nick Saban has done down there. It's like, for the most part, the guys that he brings in makes that program better. They find better opportunities outside. And then every now and then we get a bad crop. And Nick does not waste time. If it's bad, it's out. And I think that's what I like about him so much. It's just how quick he's ready to pull the trigger and move on to the next best thing.
Right. Well, they're going to have to do that, Shane, based on their returning production. So let's start with the offense like we always do. 43% of the production is back for Alabama. That's dead last in the SEC. We'll get to the defense in a second, but they're dead last in returning defensive production too. So, I mean, normally that's huge red flags, Shane, and that could be a reason why you could understand why some people are down on Alabama. But Alabama has proven annually that this statistic does not have anything to do with their success because all the talent on the roster, their success in the transfer portal, and more specifically recruiting, they just reload. They are the masters of doing it. But passing yards returning, 9%, Shade. This is the lowest we've seen. Jalen Milroe, 297 passing yards last season. Rushing, 53% is back. Jace McClellan had 655 rushing yards last season. Receiving yards, here's where they shine. 64% of the receiving yards are back. Jermaine Burton, 677. He led the Crimson Tide in receiving yards last year. But only 2 players, Shane, on the offensive line back that started last year. So Tommy Rees got his hands full with, kind of mixing these pieces together in a new system. So this is why we'll get to the schedule here in a minute, but this is why that Texas game, week 2, thankfully it's at home, but that's why it looms so big in my mind, because it's not like I think Texas is going to go up and down the field on Alabama's defense. I certainly don't, but
Yeah.
I think they're going to get 20, 25 points maybe. So our offense has got to be able to score to beat Texas early in the season.
Yeah, man. And if you watch the spring game, there was a lot of sloppy play on that side of the ball. I mean, you love the way these athletes look. I think the running back room looks fantastic. I think these receivers look good. I think that offensive line, dude, is maybe one of the biggest damn lines to come through there, but they've not put it all together. They didn't put it together in the spring. They're really going to have to come together real quick, because it does ramp up week 2 when you got Texas and a team that almost embarrassed you last year. So, yeah, I'm with you here, man. I think this is but you got to remember, let's don't get too crazy here. This Alabama team put a shit ton of points on the board last year. They just had trouble keeping points off the board from the other side.
Right. So let's go to the defense, Shane. Again, 38% returning production. That's dead last in the SEC. 6 of the top 7 tacklers from last season are now in the NFL. Only 27.6% of the sacks are back from last season, and 28.7% of the interceptions. We don't have a player on this team, Shane, that had 2 interceptions. At least that's back. We certainly had that last year, but those guys are off to the NFL. Now, a lot of that's because people don't want to throw it, Kool-Aid. He can't intercept it if they won't throw his way. So, again, these are somewhat alarming defensive statistics, but when you look at the roster, when you look at the talent, I am not concerned that Alabama, their defense, I think, is going to be short of maybe Georgia. It's probably be the best in the SEC.
Yeah, I think a lot of people sleeping on this unit, man. I know you look at those numbers and you're just like, wait, it doesn't make sense. We got all these new guys. Why are you so high on them? But, dude, I'm telling you right now, what they did bring back were key pieces, and they're going to be able to build around those key pieces, and that's why I'm excited about the defense. When I watched the spring game, I didn't freak out about the offense. I just got excited about this defense.
Right. So let's go to the guys they lost in the transfer portal, Shane. Surprising amount. I didn't realize, I kind of lost track of how many guys they actually left. And unlike others, maybe it's because they are on Alabama's roster, but most of these guys, Shane, went to Power 5 programs. Again, are we losing a ton with all these guys? No. But maybe sometimes you get that A on you, Shane, and another school is just dying to get you on their roster. But let's go down some of their guys they lost in the transfer portal before we get to the guys they added. Trey Sanders, one of Shane's favorites over the breakout candidate for about 6 seasons. He's at TCU now, the running back. Aaron Anderson, receiver. He was one of the top 5 receiver in the country. He has shifted to LSU. JoJo Earl is another touted recruit. Some fumbling issues. He is also at TCU. Tyler Harrell, the receiver, jumped to Miami. Trayshawn Holden, another receiver, to Oregon. Now, Shane, 5 offensive linemen. I got a little concern here. Again, they got talent. They got loads of talent on offensive line, but losing 5 offensive linemen ain't easy. Javon Cohen left for Miami. Tommy Brockmeyer, former 5-star, he also went to TCU. TCU's just taking anybody they can from Alabama, apparently. Amari Knight left for Central Florida. Tanner Bowles, he's now at Kentucky. He's going to likely factor in as a potential starter up there. And then Damian George went to Florida. He is another one they project to be a starter for the Gators. And then at linebacker, they lost Damone Kennedy to Colorado. NIL would. Travion Fagans, the defensive back, to Southern Cal. Jarquez Robinson, another one to join Dion at Colorado. And Kyrie Jackson, Alabama, to Oregon. And I left even a couple others off, Shane. So you can kind of see, virtually all their guys that left are now playing at the Power 5 level. So that is a little bit of a red flag, in my opinion.
A little bit, but like you said, that's what they do down there. They recruit 4- and 5-star talent, and sometimes if you don't make that spot, and I'm not saying that's what it is. Trey Sanders, prime example. Love the kid, kept waiting for him to hit, but you got a absolutely loaded running back room. So he's not getting his opportunity. I get that. I get going to another program. So again, I'm not saying that was all these guys' situations, but a lot of it was you just weren't getting enough playing time. And so that they went to a Power 5. I'm not freaking out. I'm just saying, man, that's what they got. They got a loaded roster full of people that could go to TCU and play tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great point, Shane. So let's get to the guys they're bringing into the program, some potential impact players here, Shane. And I don't think Tyler Buckner is going to be your starting quarterback, but we got to lead with him because he may very well, from Notre Dame, 56% completion percentage at Notre Dame, 949 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. But one thing I will say about him, Shane, very underrated as a runner. I was surprised when I went back and watched what he did at Notre Dame. 459 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns on the ground. So much more of a dual threat than I think most people realize. Tight end from Maryland, C.J. Dippery, 33 catches, 339 yards, and 3 touchdowns in 2 seasons. Played for Mike Loxley up there at Maryland. Former linebacker from Georgia, Shade, so he'll slide right in. He knows the playbook here. Tresman Marshall, he had 30 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, a sack, and an interception in his 4 seasons at Georgia. How wild is it, Shade? We'll get to the Dogs in another episode, but you can't get on the field at Georgia, just go down to Alabama. I mean, I can't believe that's even something that can be said. And then 2 defensive backs, Shane, from lower levels, but they dominated the lower levels. Trey Amos from Louisiana, 59 tackles, a pick, and 13 passes defended last season. And then Jalen Key from UAB just down the road, 60 tackles, 3 picks last season. So that's the list. That's the entire list of everybody Alabama brought in via transfer. But Alabama does not have to bring in a lot of transfers.
No.
And the guys they do bring in anticipate will play a role immediately.
Yeah, that's the key there, Mike. They went out and got exactly what they needed. It wasn't a wide net just to get some athletes on the field. They've got plenty on that roster. They went out to fix the problems and the holes in this program.
Yeah, and they signed the number 1 recruiting class in the country. Many are saying the top recruiting class ever, Shane. And normally what we do is we highlight the 1 or 2 5-star that you got, and then some 4 stars. This is just 5 stars. I'm going down the list here, Shane. Number 1 edge player in the country, Keon Keeley. Number 2 overall prospect. Number 1 safety, Caleb Downs, likely going to start immediately. Number 1 offensive tackle, Caden Proctor, likely to start this fall. Number 2 running back, Justice Haynes, may not start, but could be the best freshman in the country. Number 2 corner, Desmond Ricks. Number 2 defensive lineman, James Smith. Number 4 edge defender, Yanze Perry. Number 5 edge defender, Quay Rusal. Number 6 receiver, Jalen Hale. Those are all 5-star, 9 5-stars, Shane, they signed. And then just to boot, I know you love JUCOs here, Shane. They said, why not just get the top 2 JUCOs too? Number 1 overall and number 1 receiver, Malik Benson. Look for him to make an impact. He's already getting compared to Henry Ruggs. Number 2 overall, the top linebacker, Justin Jefferson. Absolutely loaded. And they signed about 25 4-stars too, Shane, but
yeah.
we just ain't got time to go through all of them. You know what?
Isn't that something? We start this show talking about how old Nick Saban is, you know? And every single coach that comes in those kids' locker or in their living room is telling them the exact same thing. Like, Nick will not be here in 3 to 4 years. You know that, right? But Nick still pulls them, man. You know what I'm saying? So you go out, you get the number 1 recruiting coach. It doesn't matter what you say. They've built a machine down there in Tuscaloosa, and the recruiting class is just you would think there would be a changing of the guard. You know, the LSU would pop up, or Georgia would just keep the 1 spot, or Texas A&M. Nah, Alabama's going to do it, and they're going to keep doing it.
Did you see the quote going around this weekend, Shane? I didn't read the article. I just read the headline like we all do these days. But did you see that Alabama 5-star receiver? He was asked about Nick Saban. Did you see what he said? He said, according to Nick Saban, this is what Saban's telling these recruits, because they all ask him, how long are you going to keep coaching, Coach? He said, I'm going to be here till I croak. Smoking like a real, I mean, who says croak? You know what I mean?
That's it, man. That's right, man. And he's not going to, because he's in these kids' living room playing video games with them. You'd never see Kirby do something like that. Kirby's too cool for that. Not Saban, man. Fire up that Wii.
All right, Shane, let's break down the position groups, ranking them, starting with the offense, of course. And I got to go running back. You already alluded to it here. Such a deep room here.
Yep.
Jace McClellan back, one of the most underrated prospects in the SEC. Roydale Williams, Jam Miller back for a second season. He got some play last year. And then the freshman Justice Haynes, who was the star of the spring game.
Yep.
We go 4 deep of standouts here at Alabama.
Deep. Fast. They all got their own little flair. You know what I'm saying? They've got so many freak athletes in that room. That room is absolutely loaded.
And you got to imagine, Shane, this is what you need for a reworked offensive line, new quarterback, new offensive coordinator. Let's lean on this ground game until the quarterbacks and receivers get on the same page, until the offensive line. You said it yourself. I mean, the offensive line, I mean, that where they make their hay is running the ball. Let these guys gel together. Don't make them, go to pass pro 50 times as much as some lazy lineman may want to get that done. At Alabama, we're some road graders. You know what?
Yeah, get back to your roots, man. I mean, when you think about some of the all-time great Alabama teams, it was with the running backs and that offensive line. The other stuff was just fun. A Julio Jones would come through every now and then. Ruggs, like you said. But when it all boiled down to it, it's like, let's turn around, hand the ball to a dude, one of 4 dudes, and get 10, 15 yards each time. That's what we missed about Alabama the last few seasons.
Right. Running the ball when your opponent knows you're going to run it, and they simply cannot stop it. That is the mark of an elite college football team, and that's what they need to be here in Alabama this fall. Next, Shane, I got the receivers. Pretty loaded receiver room here. Ja'Cory Brooks is back. Jermaine Burton was the leading receiver last year. Kobe Prentice, Isaiah Bond, I love him. Kendrick Law, Emmanuel Henderson, fast as hell. Shaz Preston, and then that junior college number 1 overall prospect, Malik Benson. We go 8, 9 deep at receiver. I don't even know. Are we going to get all these guys the ball?
Probably not. But, hey, the fact that you got options out there, I think, is pivotal. And this is good for rotation. As they're in the quarterback, challenge or battle right now, you've always got starting receivers that you're throwing to, even if you're playing with the second team,
Right. Now, next on my list, Shane, this may surprise you. I got quarterbacks. Now, I know we got no idea who the starter is going to be. Could be Jalen Milroe. Could be Ty Simpson, who we've not really seen in any meaningful action. Could be Tyler Buckner. But we also got 2 promising freshmen, Shane. Eli Holstein, Dylan Logarin, who both of them apparently made plays in the spring here. So 5 deep. May not remain at 5, but again, as we've been doing these fall previews here, there's not many SEC programs that are currently 5 deep at quarterback. So who knows? And one of these guys may emerge, maybe a star by the end of the season. But if nothing else, we're deep and we're talented.
And poor tight ends. They ain't got a shot with Mike, He hates them. Hates them tight ends. I will say this on the quarterbacks, Mike. The one thing is there's still opportunities for people to grow. The starting quarterback for Alabama may not be the finishing quarterback for Alabama, but looking at the schedule, which we're going to get to here in a minute, there's going to be opportunities for some of these guys to get active counts. Because practice is one thing. You can be good in practice and you'll get your shot, but sometimes you got to wait till the lights come on to find out who truly can run this team. Yep.
All right, now next on my list, Shane, the offensive line, and again, it's mainly due because we're only have 2 starters back, and that's center Seth McLaughlin, right tackle J.C. Latham, who he's probably the best right tackle in all SEC, maybe college football. But we got some outstanding players behind him. Shane, Tyler Booker, who emerged late last season, he's the next future star on that offensive line. He could be All-American by the end of the season. Darren Dalcourt's back. He's played a little bit. Others that could step up. James Brockmeyer, former 5-star, Terrence Ferguson, and then that number 1 tackle in the entire country, freshman Caden Proctor. He's probably going to be there next. Alabama went on a run there, Shane, for a long time. They get a number 1 tackle, put him at left tackle. He's there for 3 years. He's a top 10 pick. Do it again. He's going to be the next in a long list of guys that have done it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm not worried about this group at all, Mike. I'm telling you, as soon as they figure it out, everybody else needs to worry about them.
Yeah. So, of course, tight ends last on my list, Shane. But this really is a big question mark for Alabama. It's why they had to go to Maryland to get the transfer C.J. Zippery. And we got Robbie Oates and Amari Niblack, 2 players that have played, but not extensively. Our former tight end, Cam Latu, he's now in the NFL. So, a little bit of a mystery. I'm kind of interested to see how the tight ends will factor into this offense because I don't know how much Notre Dame you watch, Shade. Honestly, I didn't watch a ton, but when I went back and watched that Buckner kid at Notre Dame, they featured the tight end. About every other pass went to their outstanding tight end. So
yeah,
I'm going to be interested to see how Tommy Rees runs things at Alabama now that he may not have that All-American tight end that he had at Notre Dame.
Do you think, because sometimes you say that, Mike, but sometimes that All-American tight end is on that roster. He just wasn't used. You know, do you think that's what we see? A couple of, let's say 4 or 5 weeks in, we're like, damn, this kid come out of nowhere,
Yeah, that is always a possibility at Alabama because, there's always
I always think about Jimbo when he showed up Texas A&M. They didn't have tight ends. Then all of a sudden they got the best tight end in the country. So it's like, he was there the whole time. He just wasn't used properly.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And if that happens, I think that'll be on Bill O'Brien more than anything.
Yeah, I'll remind you when it happens.
All right, the defensive side of the ball, Shane, I think we are loaded on that defensive line. Jaheim Oates, all SEC type player. Tim Smith, he's outstanding. Justin Ogbagbe, I butchered that, but he missed last season. He was outstanding prior. Jamil Burrows, Damon Payne, Ja Marin, Latham, very talented, very deep. And don't forget, Shane, 4 5-stars we've added to this rotation. Keon Keeley, James Smith, Yanze Pere, and Quay Rosal. So very, very, very talented group. Short of A&M, maybe the most talented defensive line group in the SEC.
They've been putting weight on since they hit campus, man.
Next, I got the defensive back, Shane. A very strong unit for the Crimson Tide. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terrion Arnold, Malachi Moore, Earl Little, Christian Story, all standouts, all back. And then the freshman, Caleb Downs, who sounds like he's going to start day one. Tony Mitchell, if he can stop getting arrested. But he's an elite player of his own. And Desmond Ricks. These guys are good, but we're bringing back so much experience. I don't know how much outside of Caleb Downs, how much the true freshman will play, but it's nice to have options.
Yeah, options, man. Depth. That's why I love this room so much. Is because there won't be that drop off like some other programs have to do, late in the season. This room is loaded as well.
Right. And then linebackers, again, this is not to short them at all because the best player on the team may be a linebacker, and we're deep, we're talented, but we're just so loaded everywhere else. Dallas Turner, outstanding pass rusher. Chris Braswell, Dante Lawson, Jeremiah Alexander, and Quandarius Robinson, all back. The Georgia transfer, Tresman Marshall, throw him into the mix. And then the number 1 junior college linebacker, Justin Jefferson. Absolutely loaded defensive linebackers here for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, in your mind, what is that gap between secondary and linebackers? Is it are we just all pretty close here on that side of the ball?
Well, honestly, Shane, you know why I gave the edge to the defensive backs? Because they felt the need to get a guy from a transfer from Georgia and a transfer from the junior college ranks. So, again, that's not to slight the guys they got. Maybe they looked around and just said, hey, our third team, we're missing a third team linebackers. Yeah. But when you're having to bring guys in, to me, that's an indication that we're feeling slightly thin there. We didn't do that at defensive back.
Okay. All right. Yeah, good point.
All right, the specialist, Shane, again, they're loaded here too. Will Reichert back again for another season. He's the all-time Alabama record holder, Shane, 426 points. And of course, he'll rack up a ton this year, 62 of 75 for his career kicking field goals at Alabama. He was 22 of 26 last season. And then punter James Burnip. One guess, Shane, where's he from?
Australia.
Australia there, getting no Fosters. 42 yards per punt last season. So bringing back an experienced special teams unit. Remember a couple years ago, Shane, special teams was a disaster at Alabama. They have corrected that the last 3 or 4 seasons. Now it's one of the strongest points on the team.
Would you want to punt for Alabama? Like if I had scholarship offers and they're like, you could come up here and punt for Alabama or you could punt for Idaho. I'm like,
I think I'd go to Alabama.
You know, do I want to punt once every 2 games, or do I want to get some work in? No, I get what you're saying, but I'm sure it's an interesting topic. You know,
do I want to learn about Moscow, Idaho, or do I want to travel the country, go to all these bowl games?
Maybe Idaho wasn't the best example. How about like FAU or something like that, somewhere a little tropical, you know?
Okay.
It's like, we could go to the beach. I get a lot of playing time because we suck, you know, something like that. But now I'm going to Alabama and they don't even know my name here, you know? There's a song. I said that's a song, by the way.
All right, how about, Shane, the top 10 players as rated by the NCAA video game if it was out this season? You know, that's the sad thing as I'm sitting here doing this, Shane, is we miss this game so much. But a lot of these guys on all these teams, they're not going to be around next season. They're going to, this coming season, obviously. But the following year, they're going to be in the NFL. They're not going to be on the NCAA video game. So another generation robbed of not being on that game.
I know. Did you see what them lawyers were doing?
Yeah.
They're coming after these the NCAA. Just so if you've not paid attention,
all they're really going to do, Shane, is at worst case scenario, they're robbing all the players again because if they keep pushing, they're just going to put the game out with not a single name on it, and no one's going to notice.
I know, and that sucks because there's a lot of kids that want their name on it. You know, there's a lot of kids that are excited that, I mean, I've seen them tweet out there, and there should be some sort of list where you can either be on it or off of it, you know, and this is how much you get if you're on it, this is how much you get if you're off of it or whatever. So it's just kind of crazy to me that it's just always something. Let's just let them play, man. They're doing name, image, likeness. They're giving them some money, so they don't get on it. Sorry.
People got to put their hand out on something, you know. And
damn
I'm talking about the lawyers
chasers,
only. Yeah, exactly.
Know? Yeah.
All right, so top 10 players for the Crimson Tide, Shane. Kool-Aid McKinstry, 99. Shane's always waiting for them 99s.
There they is.
He's one of the few I have on the football game, but the lockdown corner, you just don't see that much in college. Kool-Aid's a 99 in my book. Dallas Turner, the linebacker, Shane, 97, elite player. J.C. Latham, the right tackle, also giving him a 97. Strong on the trenches there. 95, defensive back Malachi Moore. He's been a standout since his freshman year. Jaheim Otis on the defensive line. I've given him a 94. Chris Braswell, the linebacker, 93. Jace McClellan, the running back, 91. Tyler Booker, that offensive lineman I was telling you about, I think he'll be an All-American by the end of the season. Give him a 90. That's pretty solid for a sophomore, true sophomore. 89, Shane. How about this? Caleb Downs, the safety, true freshman. You're not going to see many 89 freshmen.
Nope.
And you're not going to see many 88s either, but you see it here with Justice Hayes, the running back, Shane. So pretty impressive to have 2 freshmen. Maybe I'm jumping, I'm getting excited about these freshmen, but I'm putting them in the top 10 because I think they have All-American potential.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, just like those 4 stars you didn't mention earlier, there's some other dudes on this roster you didn't mention that could easily move up on this list. That's just how crazy it is in Alabama. Like, you just haven't given them an opportunity yet. Then we look back and we're like, well, hell, why didn't I put him on the list, Oh, you missed that first-round pick. Okay,
Yep. So what's the biggest camp questions you have for Alabama, Shane? And for me, it's all about the quarterbacks. I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest storyline maybe in all of college football during camp season is who Alabama will start, because it's such a mystery, and it could be any of three guys. And heck, if the true freshmen come on, no one was talking about Jalen Hurts the year he started as a true freshman either. So who knows? It could go any five ways, really. How that plays out, that's the biggest thing I have. And I really think Tommy Rees, his offensive system, all the new pieces, putting all those pieces together, those are kind of the two biggest questions I have for the Crimson Tide this fall camp.
Yeah, good one, Mike. Obviously quarterbacks is the easy answer there. That's what we're all interested in. What does that system look like, Reese? But more importantly, man, I think I'm going on the opposite side. I want to see what Coach Steele does immediately with these dudes, because it felt at times last year that they were misused. It felt like at times they were outplayed or outcoached. And I think when Coach Steele comes in, this is one of the best rooms he's ever worked with. And how quickly do they grasp to his system? So I saw more of an aggressive defense during the spring. I want to see that continue into fall. If we could do that, I think that's the biggest one for me. It's just, what does this defense look like?
All right, Shane. Schedule analysis, win, loss, or toss. And again, this will be fairly easy here. Again, we do these as Alabama homers here, Shane. So Let's break down the schedule. Lots of games I think Alabama fans have as it should be a win. And hell, maybe all of them, but you can disagree or agree with my list here. MTSU right out the gate, easy. That should be a win, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely a win.
Now, Texas, some people are – hell, Chris Marler, friend of the show, Alabama homer, he's got Texas winning that game. I think that's clickbait right there. That should be a win. Get out of here with that. You know what?
He's been at SDS too long. He's basically giving you an article right there, Mike. No, this is a win. If you talk to any real Alabama homer, which Chris is, I know he gives you a hard time, but there's no way in his heart he thinks that this is going to be a ball game. Give me Alabama here.
At South Florida, win.
Yeah, win.
Ole Miss at home. I know they've been tricky. Win. At Mississippi State, you've beaten them like 20 years in a row. Win.
Yep.
Arkansas, another one you've kind of owned. I know they're feisty now, but you're getting them at home. Win.
Mm-hmm. What the hell, Mike?
Cover your ears, Shade. Tennessee at home. You've owned them. I know we kind of flip-flopped on the last one as Tennessee homers, but I think all Alabama fans expect a win the third Saturday in October. Agree
How can you have this as a toss for Tennessee? No, as a fan, I get it, Mike. I get it. Even last year, Alabama fans are sick to their stomachs because there's no reason they should have lost to the Tennessee Volunteers, and they're saying the same damn thing this year. So, yes, win.
At Kentucky, again, we respect Kentucky more than anybody. Win.
Yes.
Chattanooga, come on, that should even be on the schedule. Win.
There's a video floating around, Nick Saban telling us how good UTC's coach is and the staff. 15 minutes he talks about this damn team. I doubt that coach is even down there anymore.
At Auburn, tricky, I get it's on the plains, but give me a break. That's a game Alabama fans expect to win annually. Agree?
I agree.
All right, so the game's unlikely to win. 0. This is the first time, I believe, Shane, I don't have any as a likely loss for Alabama, which means there's only 2 other games, and you may disagree. Feel free to disagree. 2 toss-ups at A&M, and that's giving A&M the benefit of the doubt. I'm sitting here saying they'll be top 5, top 10. They'll have figured things out. If not, I mean, hell, that's an easy win.
Yep.
But that's been a tight one, so I'm giving that a toss-up. It's on the road. Alabama on the road. Everybody on the road struggles, but and then LSU at home. Would you put either one of those into the should be a win category?
Well, I think you could make the argument with A&M just because as a Bama fan, you're disappointed that game was even close last year. I think toss is okay here. I get it. I get why you did it, but
and I'm also, to be fair to Alabama, because I want this to be a fun, entertaining show. I very easily just could have said win on all of them. I'm stretching a little bit to find toss-ups, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, let's make it entertaining. Let's say Georgia was swapped out with who we got here? Who's our other? Kentucky. Let's say November 11th was at Georgia. Would you have that as a loss?
Everybody is a loss at Georgia.
I'm just saying. Okay. Well, let's say let's say down there in Tuscaloosa. Would you have it as a toss, or would you have it as a loss?
Toss. Okay. At home is a different story, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Just trying to gauge where you're at, Mike, and your hatred for the Crimson Tide.
So let's do our schedule predictions here, Shane, game by game. And again, many of these we're not going to spend much time on. MTSU, pick your score type game.
Yeah.
Right?
Blue Raiders, Oakland Raiders, they're going to whoop them. Get them out of here. Give me a win, Alabama.
Texas at home. And, thankfully, Shane, I think for this year, I think it's good that you nearly lost in Austin because I think that'll get you more. Not that they have a problem getting their teams locked in or anything, but I think that locks you up even more with people hyping up Texas, with Texas coming to the SEC. That I actually think hurts Texas that they're coming because I think Alabama, their fans, their players, their coaches are going to want to say, "You think you're ready? Well, you're about to find out.
Yeah.
You are not even damn close to our level." So, this is not even a consideration for an upset for me.
And I think Texas will be a better team this year. I do. But when I'm looking at Alabama, this game was an embarrassment. It was like the first shot, It's like we needed a miracle for Alabama to win, and it blew everybody's mind. And then we kind of got where are they, and trying to figure out this program. So I think this has been in the locker rooms all summer long. You know what I'm saying? People are already talking about how big this game's going to be. Every media outlet will be covering it. We will be covering it, Mike. It's going to be a great football game, but it's going to be an easy victory for Alabama Crimson Tide.
All right, at South Florida again. It's just weird that it's in South Florida, but maybe we can swing by and hit the if we're close to a beach. I have no idea, but that'd be the most compelling part of this game.
Seems like you should be near an ocean down there, Mike, if you're going to South Florida. But this is a little bit of a spring break or fall break. Get down there, get some sun. I cannot believe it's there. That still blows my mind. But easy victory here.
Now, Ole Miss, here's where things can get interesting, Shane, because of the Lane Kiffin factor, because of the offense he's got coming back, could be a very entertaining game. And for whatever reason, Shane, they seem to play Alabama well in Bryant-Denny, a lot better than they play him in Oxford. That game came down to the wire, but you in good conscience cannot convince me that Ole Miss is going to come into Bryant-Denny and come away with anything other than maybe a 14-point loss.
It's funny when you talk about these bigs, these powerhouse programs, there's always one or two games that sneak up on you. And Ole Miss, I think, would be there if Lane Kiffin wasn't the coach, But the fact that he is there, this is personal for Nick Saban. And I don't think he wants to beat him just because it's Nick Saban. It's just he knows he's going to get the best coached Ole Miss football team he's ever played. So he's got to be dialed in, and he doesn't want to get embarrassed by Coach Kiffin here. So I got to win. It was close last year. I think it'll be close this year, but still will be fun. Get your popcorn ready, guys.
At Mississippi State, again, they've owned Mississippi State, new coaching staff, new schemes. I mean, more often than not, this game's not even competitive. I don't think this one will be either.
Do you know how close this stadium is?
91 miles.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? How'd you know that? Mike, I'd love to say that this is a trap game, but it's not. It is not going to be a trap game. This is a game that we kind of make it bigger than it is, and then we turn around, we watch Alabama beat the shit out of them. So give me Alabama here with another big win.
Now, this is what I'm kind of the most concerned about here, Shane. At Texas A&M, given that Jimbo's squad plays up to Alabama.
Can I pause you for just a second? Going through this list, because I started thinking about it. Is there any of those teams? So easy win. We got 5 wins in a row there. Is there any team that you got a little asterisk by, like could pop up and surprise you? I just joked about Mississippi State, but the more I started thinking about it, I was like, maybe I'm already doing it, Mike. I'm like, well, maybe they do catch them off. I mean, you come off that Ole Miss, you're looking at Texas A&M looming there. Maybe Mississippi State gets you. So
the only one is Ole Miss, and that's if Jackson Dart or Spencer Sanders or whoever the quarterback is elite, and combine that with Quinshawn Judkins, and they just can't keep them off the field. Because again, similar to what we said earlier about Texas, you may have to outscore Ole Miss.
Yeah.
But I just don't think Ole Miss is going to be going up and down the field. Now, remember, they got Pete Golding, too. So he's going to know a lot about Alabama's personnel. I don't know that that's really an advantage. They're going to know everything to know about Pete Golding as well. So I think that's kind of a wash. That's the only one, and I'm giving it like 10% worry,
Yeah, I got you. I don't know. Now that I said it, I'm going to put a little asterisk by Mississippi State. I'm a little worried about them too.
Okay.
I just think it's perfect trap scenario here. But then you get there, them cowbells ringing, probably an earlier game, maybe catch them off guard. So that's the one I've got a little asterisk by.
But the one I'm really concerned about, Shane, A&M.
Yeah.
I'd be a little bit more concerned if I had more faith in Jimbo Fisher as a coach. But who knows what they're going to look like with Bobby Petrino if they really let him have the keys. We get that thing rolling. Kyle Field, that can be an incredibly hostile place to play, and it'll be more hyped up for Alabama than any game short of Texas in 2024. So, I just think this environment's going to be tough. I am kind of like leaning A&M, Shane, but Alabama homer here.
Yeah.
A lot's got to break right for A&M to even get to that point to where Petrino and Jimbo ain't at each other's throats and quarterback emerges and the offensive line's not a train wreck. I mean, there's a lot that's got to happen. So give me Alabama, but this is the game I'm most concerned about.
Yeah, it's funny. You look at these programs. 20 years ago, they didn't hate each other, but they do now. It's like Jimbo and Nick Saban. It's a story that's going to get brought up right after that Mississippi State game, and it's going to keep rolling until these two play. It is going to be an awesome matchup. I think this is maybe one of the biggest marquee games of the year. I just love how well you got the Alabama running backs on this side, but you got Texas A&M defensive lines. You got some of the best wide receivers in the game over here at College Station, but you've got Kool-Aid and crew over here. It's like it is going to be an epic battle, but Nick's got your number here lately, so I'm gonna go as a homer. Alabama win.
Right.
Close game though.
The only thing I will say, Shane, Alabama fans don't want to hear this because it's win every game and win the championship. You can lose to A&M and it won't kill you because they still got to go to Tennessee. They got to go to LSU. I think there's a situation where you drop this game and you're still in to win the West. Arkansas at home, tricky game, Shane. KJ, Rocket, and company, they're going to be able to score some points. I don't know if they're going to be able to stop Alabama, though, so this is another one I'm not too concerned about, but you cannot underrate Sam Pittman and company, Arkansas Razorbacks. So give me a win, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as maybe some people anticipate.
I'll tell you, man, if you get Rocket and KJ playing their best game ever, they may be able to keep it within 14. So, Alabama, big win here.
All right, Tennessee coming to town. Shane, revenge factor will be very real. Kevin Steele, remember, he's even got some bad blood here. Hired by Pruitt in Tennessee. They kicked him to the curb right away. So, he's a Tennessee grad, too. So, a lot of bad blood in this matchup, Shane. Maybe it's a rivalry again. It certainly will be a rivalry again in all college football fans' minds if Tennessee comes down to Tuscaloosa and beats Alabama. But it ain't happening, Shane. Give me Alabama to win the day once again and flip that series right back to where it belongs.
Oh, Mike, it's going to be a good game. It was so good. Last year, me and you watched this one. We talked about it on the last show here, Mike. It was just one of the highlights of my life. Top 5, easy. Hell, I'd probably even say top 3 games I've ever watched. And I'll always cherish those memories. But to go to Alabama and repeat that process, it just doesn't happen, man. It just doesn't happen. While Nick Saban's down there, why this team is as good as they are, it's going to take an absolute miracle for Tennessee to pull off another upset. Tennessee Vols would have to have it dialed in. Joe Milton legit. Wide receivers emerge. Defense lockdown. It's going to have to be a perfect game. And that's too many what ifs. So give me Alabama here. I think, again, similar to Texas A&M, I think it's a close game. But I'm going to give the edge to Alabama.
Now, the next game, they'll have 2 weeks to prepare for what likely will be the showdown that decides the SEC West, with LSU coming to town. Another revenge factor. Maybe if this was a week after Tennessee, I would be even more concerned, particularly if LSU had 2 weeks to prepare and we didn't. But we got 2 weeks to prepare for this matchup. I'm already on record. I think LSU's winning it all this year, but their toughest game is right here in Tuscaloosa, coming in to Nick Saban's house. This is a coin toss. It really, really is, Shane. I think LSU can get it done. But it ain't going to happen, brother. Give me Alabama. Maybe a last-second field goal. Maybe they go for 2 of themselves and win it at the buzzer here. This, to me, either team can win it, but give me the home team. You got to like the home team in matchups like this.
Well, especially when that home team just never really loses at home. And I think when you're looking at these two teams back-to-back, Tennessee and LSU, these are the two teams, the 2 reasons you didn't make the college football playoffs, the 2 reasons you didn't go to SEC championship, the 2 reasons you got embarrassed on national TV. I don't think that's something that you could do 2 years in a row. Mike, this is a revenge tour. I said it last year, brother, but this is what the revenge is about, is putting the stars back in line. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Making things right. So, and to do that, you got to beat Tennessee and you got to beat LSU, and that's exactly what happens this time. So, give me Alabama. Big. Now, I think this. Ooh. I think you're overreacting. I think people. We'll get to LSU, and I know there's a lot of good things to love down there. But, again, it's a lot of what ifs. I think if Alabama gets a lead on these guys, a substantial lead, the foot will not come off the gas. It was a personal loss last year. It'll be a personal win this year.
Now, at Kentucky, tricky game, Shane, particularly coming off Tennessee LSU in the last 2. You cannot underrate this matchup. Cannot wait to see Liam Cohen's offense against this Kevin Steele, Nick Saban defense. I think that is going to be a sight to behold. But I still think it would take a lot for Kentucky to beat Alabama, particularly if it plays out the way we just laid it out and they're undefeated.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I think it'll be close. I think Kentucky will, they'll score a touchdown as time expires to win by the spread, like they did against Georgia a couple years ago. I think it'll be a tight ball game, but Alabama wins it.
Yeah, and the placement of this game is what scares me a little bit, is because, again, you're coming off the Tennessee, the LSU matchup, and then Kentucky, one that you ask any of the kids on that roster, they've already penciled as a win. They have no respect for that program. They don't play them often. They don't know exactly what it's going to be like there in that environment. I think this is a sneaky game, and I think it's close, brother. I think it's close, but give me Alabama with the edge here.
A UT Chattanooga, Shane, coming to town.
Yeah,
Ooh.
beating all the UTs, ain't they? Texas, Balls, and Chattanooga.
Can we roll out the third team? And how many points will we beat out Chattanooga by?
That's all right. Does UT Martin got a football team? Let's go down there and whoop their ass while we're at it.
So final game here, Shane, a lot on the line. Iron Bowl on the road. Not going to be easy. Not with Hugh Freeze down there running the ship, but that makes it personal for Nick Saban. The Iron Bowl's always personal to Nick Saban. So, I mean, I can't in good conscience pick Auburn to win that game. In this scenario, I think Alabama goes undefeated on to the SEC championship game, likely to face Georgia.
Yeah.
Maybe undefeated themselves. What an epic clash that would be. Do you have Alabama also in this scenario going undefeated?
I do too, Mike. At the Iron Bowl, obviously, we've had some good games in the past, and I think we're going to have good games in the future. I really do. I think Hugh's got a couple more seasons to get that roster right, but crazier things have happened. It just ain't happening this year, Mike. Give me Alabama, undefeated season, going to an SEC championship. This is a revenge tour, man, and on that revenge tour, you got to face Kirby Smart somewhere, so let's do it in Atlanta.
Man, I can't wait for that, Shane. I cannot wait for the Paul Feinbaum show the following Monday if that happens. You know what? Georgia, Alabama, undefeated. And hell, if they go undefeated, both of them, Shane, and it's a close game, they're probably doing it again in the college football playoff, don't you think?
Like at, what was it, LSU? Was it LSU, Alabama that one year? They played, and then
back then they only picked two, and they still said, "Well, hell, this is the two we got to go."
This is it, right? You know, so yeah, it would be awesome because then again we'd get another dose of it. So, I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you right now, Alabama has always been, for many years, the safe pick for the number one program in the country. And lately they've been taking some hits. Took some hits with Tennessee and LSU, with Georgia plenty of times, you know, and you feel like, all right, man, we're starting to catch up to them. This is a make or break for me, Mike. This feels like the season that we're ultimately saying Bama's coming back to the fold, or that was a one-off. That was a fugazi, you know, right. That just didn't exist. So I think this is a pivotal season here. And I've said that my bold take, Mike, and I'm going to stick with it, man. My bold take was that Alabama goes undefeated, wins a natty, and Nick Saban walks off that field for the final time on his own accord. So either way, it's a win-win. I mean, we don't have to play against Nick Saban the following year, but you know what I'm saying. But I don't know. It almost feels, because we do this, the years that we don't expect Alabama, then bam, they're right there in the mix. So
right,
a lot of people are counting them out this year, and you're crazy. We just went through a perfect schedule here.
Let me ask you real quick, Shane. If it is Alabama and Georgia in the championship and they're both undefeated, we've seen that before. I don't know. I don't think maybe Alabama wasn't undefeated, but they won the game. And obviously they both went on to the college football playoff, and Georgia won in the championship. But my question to you, Shane, if you're in that SEC championship and you know, I guess you can't really know this, but would you rather win the first matchup if a second matchup is almost guaranteed, or how do you feel about that? I know this is a weird question, but
yeah,
I just feel like I think it's tougher to beat the same team twice in a span of 3 games. Yeah. Now, if you're clearly superior team, you know, maybe that is a little bit easier, but I wonder how much of an edge that gave Georgia. Remember, they were undefeated, big favorites over Alabama in the SEC championship.
Yeah.
Alabama came out there, smacked them in the mouth, and dominated that football game, but it was a different story in the championship. And had Georgia whipped them in the SEC championship, maybe Alabama wouldn't have made the playoff that year, but
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And I've always thought about, like, so in this scenario, if you're looking at the schedule, if you lost to an LSU team, and did not go to an SEC championship and then went on to the college football playoffs and then played Georgia. Now, I would think that's an ideal loss. Not that any loss is acceptable, but I would not want to lose to LSU and then play them again in the college football playoffs. I would want to win that first LSU match and then play them again in the playoffs. You know, it just feels like you've got the upper hand. You've already beat them. A little bit of that, you know, because if you think about a loss as a player, you know, there's something personal in that game. And it may not be the scoreboard itself. It may be the guy across from me kicked my ass this game. You know what I'm saying? And that sticks in my head. Or this wide receiver was too fast. I couldn't cover him on certain routes, you know? That sticks with me here. And then it becomes personal and it gets in between my ears. So when you beat somebody like that, I think that it's kind of good psychologically if you're playing them again because you've got their number, you know? Right. So I hope that may not answer your question, but that's just kind of how I think a player would go through it.
These are the questions Georgia and Alabama fans got to play with all offseason. Do we want to win the first matchup, or how's that set up the second matchup? You know what I mean? I mean, what a world that must be to live. What a
world,
you know
man. I tell you what, this schedule's nice, brother. It's a pretty schedule. You're getting all those tough opponents at home, except for the Texas A&M matchup. I think you're in good shape. Alabama's in good shape here, Mike. And so if you're a homer, clearly you are. If you made it this far to the show, you should be tickled pink. And all we got to do is just answer a couple questions. Quarterback, you know, just molding the offense, getting a couple more pieces on that offensive line, just getting them out there and jailed. How quick did they pick up? Because last thing you can do is to just drag ass at the start of the season and fumble against Texas or fumble against Texas A&M early in the season. So
we've never talked Alabama more than we did on this show, Shane. Let's turn this off before we turn into Gumps. Absolutely. Here. You know what?
Absolutely, man. I'm going to need some more beer, Mike.
Well, I appreciate you as always, brother. I appreciate all the cousins out there for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Roll Tide. Get out.